4 members of the same family abducted at gunpoint at their trucking business in Merced County, California. A mom, a dad, and their 8-month-old baby and the baby's uncle, all taken. The sheriff and his deputies working around the clock have found and arrested the man who was holding the gun. But he's now in the hospital and the family is still missing. Tonight, the latest in the desperate search and the investigation of this tragic family kidnapping.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. A family kidnapped. A family. It's not one person, not two. No. Mom, dad, baby, and the uncle, all taken at gunpoint. This is a bizarre story. But at this moment, that family's missing. You know, when I think of kidnapping cases, at least for me, the first thing that always comes to mind is the most famous kidnapping case, I think, of my life, which was Patty Hearst. I remember as a child, this case being so in the headlines, everyone was talking about it. And as a really young guy, you know, the concept of kidnapping for the very first time struck me. And I was like, wow, okay. And then you see it in the movies over and over and over again. But the truth is, in our country, in the United States, kidnapping by strangers are actually pretty rare. They don't happen all the time. I think in the United States, it's about 100 a year. But if you watch the movies and you're influenced by the Patty Hearst case like I was when I was a kid, you'd think that they're happening all the time, but they're rare. Tonight we're talking about a family. A mom, a dad, and a little baby, and their uncle, who were all there, just taken. And we've got video. We're going to take a look at it so you can see it as well and try to break down what happened that day. But this family is still missing. Like tonight, we don't know where they are. Investigators are working hard trying to figure it out. As a matter of fact, the sheriff in this case has been really part of a very aggressive investigation out in Merced County, California. This is an old-fashioned sheriff. I mean, something happens in his jurisdiction, he's going to take care of it. And you can tell the manpower, the woman power, the hours that they're putting in trying to figure this out. And they've already found the suspect who is connected, but he's in the hospital now, so I don't think they're getting any information from him. And the information that everyone wants and needs to know is, where is this family? Where's that little baby? Where's her mom and dad? Where's her uncle tonight? Let's take a listen to the Merced County Sheriff because they've given us an update on the latest in this investigation.
On October 3rd at approximately 11:39 a.m., the California Highway Patrol and CAL FIRE were dispatched to Buhack Road and Oakdale Road in Winton for a report of a vehicle fire. After they responded to the fire, Highway Patrol determined who the registered owner was and found out they lived in the city of Merced, and they requested the city of Merced Police Department respond to the address and try to contact the registered owner. When the police department got to the house, nobody responded. However, they did make communication with a family member. That family member then started to make calls to the people that we were looking for. At this particular moment in time, we have not had any reports of missing persons. It wasn't until the family reached out to us, and then after there were several attempts made to report the family missing. At approximately 1:04 p.m., our office was notified and responded to the business on South 59. When our patrol staff, sergeants, and deputies got on scene, they made a determination that we probably had a crime, and through investigative leads, they brought detectives in, and they were able to determine that a kidnapping had in fact occurred.
At 8:58, you see Jasdeep come out the back door, and it's very important to note there's someone walking down South Highway 59 South. We're not sure if the dog alerted him, if there was some type of motion sensor or some type of app on his phone. the why he came out and looked. The 859, this is the other side. You can see a subject walking down south on Highway 59 at the business. And you'll see Jasdeep come out, and he appears to be on his phone, and we're not sure, again, if he's got a motion or what's alerting him to come outside. Jasdeep goes over and makes contact with our suspect, and then you'll see them walking back over towards the building. He's got this trash bag in his hand. As Jeep walks up to the building, pause it, get a photo of our suspect, and he'll continue to walk up the ramp. He'll put down the trash bag, and you'll see right there, he pulls out a firearm. He then enters the business. Unfortunately, there's no cameras inside of the business, so we have no video surveillance inside. At 9/11, the back door opens. You'll see the suspect come out, and you'll see the firearm. And then it also appears that Jasdeep and Amandeep are zip tied behind their backs. Jasdeep and Amandeep are put in the back seat of the pickup truck. So that was 9:13 when the vehicle left. It's now 9:19. The truck is back. Same suspect gets out of the vehicle, goes back inside the business. Less than a minute later, you're going to see Jasleen and Arohi come out of the business unrestrained. At that point, we worked on several investigative leads, which led us to an incident that occurred in the city of Atwater yesterday, just prior to noon. During that incident, the city of Atwater received information that there was an individual in the city that may be connected to this case. Prior to the law enforcement arriving on scene, that subject, Jesus Salgado, made an attempt on his life and was taken by ambulance to the hospital for medical treatment. Since then, we've been unable to speak to the suspect in this case due to his medical condition and his attempt on his own life.
There's what happened. Some strange circumstances here, scary. You've got the suspect with the gun, but they found the suspect. Then you heard at the end, before they could apprehend him, attempted to take his own life. They haven't been able to speak with him. Let me bring in our investigators joining us this hour. In Los Angeles, California, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon is with us. And in Atlanta, Georgia, former Special Agent in charge with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Trebor Randall. Great to see you both tonight. I wanted to start here. I want to take another look at that video, and as we put it up on the screen and you are watching it, I want you to tell me what you are seeing, what is significant, what is unusual as we play the video. So we're gonna roll that for you. So Bobby and Trebor, and Bobby, you can start us off, and then just kind of explain to us what you're seeing that is or is not unusual or significant in this video.
Well, obviously, we start off seeing a very usual scene, right? They arrive at work. It's just before 9 o'clock. They probably start work at 9. The brothers arrive a few minutes apart from each other at their office. They're doing their probably the very usual daily routine of starting and opening their office. He's taking the dog out. That's probably the dog you see later on the video tied up in the backyard. This is probably something they do daily. This is their daily routine. And it's not until he goes outside and kind of confronts the ultimate suspect in the case that things start to get unusual. And at first, it doesn't seem completely unusual because there doesn't seem to be a confrontation. There seems to be a conversation, but then the one gentleman goes back into his business, seemingly not under any kind of threat, and the suspect follows him. And then as you see him enter his own business, that's when you see the suspect pull out the handgun and enter the business. Whatever confrontation happens then, unfortunately, happens inside that business where there are no cameras.
Yeah, and Trevor, what I just saw in that last piece of the video, there was all the way in the background, you can see someone walking down the street, and I think that is what they described as perhaps the suspect. If you look really tiny, they're zooming in now, he seems to be walking down the street.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. That probably is the suspect. You know, as Bobby mentioned, you know, the conversation, usual or unusual, where there doesn't seem to be too much of a confrontation. That certainly was one opportunity for the suspect to, you know, initiate the criminal act, but that didn't happen then. You know, it's not typically what we're used to. You know, I have to admit, being here in Atlanta, when we're dealing with
well, Trevor, there they are right now. There you see the suspect behind. Like, what's going on right here?
It is, like you said, it's very unusual to me. Obviously, a lot of people are not wearing masks anymore, and he's got this mask on over his face, the hoodie. To me, he was very suspicious. And then when I saw the one family member go back into the building, I think at some point during that exchange, he was alerted that maybe something wasn't quite right.
It's also interesting to know that he stops there halfway up that ramp and he turns to look, and it almost looks like he's looking for cameras or he's looking at the camera. So at that point, he looks a little suspicious, like he knows what he's about to do, and he's kind of looking around to see if there's anybody else around or if there's any cameras. He literally stops and looks back.
And here
looks like he looked right at the camera.
There he is. He's taking both of them. Their hands are tied behind their back, and now they're being escorted or being forced into the back of that pickup.
And what we don't know right now, Vinny, is if he knows the mother and the child are inside that business, because here we're going to watch him leave for, I think, about 6 minutes before he returns and retrieves the woman and the child. So, you know, I'm not sure whether he knew that I would imagine he did not know she was in there, because, you know, leaving with those two, you know, it left her the chance to call the police or call relatives and alert them. Of course, he may have threatened her not to do that, or he would bring harm to those gentlemen. But it seems that we don't know whether he knew she was inside the business or not.
And I have this, you know, weird thought in my head that maybe he had already secured her. So he knew that she wasn't going to go anywhere, and obviously the baby couldn't get out, and he didn't want to transport everybody at the same time. You know, you never, these things can go any number of ways. Having done this for many years.
Here we see him going. He's going back in. This is 6 minutes later. So he drives away with the father and the uncle, and then comes back 6 minutes later. He's back inside, and let's see what happens here.
And you do notice, Vinny, when they left, he was not in a hurry. When he just returned, he leaped up those stairs very quickly and got back into that business, you know, very quickly. There seemed to be more of a sense of urgency when he was re-entering the business up those back stairs.
Why? Now, the 6 minutes that the mother was inside with the child was an opportunity to get away, an opportunity to call help. Have you ever come across a case like this where someone would be in so much fear that they do nothing? That they do nothing. I mean, look,
he had a gun. Like, you know, he has a gun, and he has your husband and your brother-in-law at gunpoint, and he says, if you pick up that phone, I'll kill them both. You know, that's a pretty credible threat, and it's probably enough to prevent someone from doing just that.
And I agree with Bobby. I mean, it happens to victims all the time. You know, victims of sexual assault and rape and child molestation, they have this threat over them. They're not physically restrained, but they do believe that threat, that I will bring harm to you and your family.
Now, let's think about, so if he's back in 6 minutes, he could not have gotten far. He could not, I mean, could he get like 2 minutes away? I mean, if we're looking for what happened to these two men. If something happened to them, they'd be 2 minutes away, wouldn't they? Or unless he went and picked them back up with the mother in the car. I'm trying to figure this out.
That's why I think there is, I don't know what the probabilities are, but I think there's a chance he either didn't know she was in there or he needed her for something that he didn't realize he needed her for, or maybe he did threaten her and leave her behind thinking the threat would hold, and then he got nervous maybe she would pick up the phone anyway. Something changed. I don't think it was part of his plan to go 6 minutes away somewhere, unless there was an ATM right around the corner, but we would have known if they tried to use that ATM. And so I think that something changed in his plan as he drove away to make him very quickly turn around and come back. Like you said, if you do a 3 minute out and 3 minute back, he could only be 3 minutes out away from that location. And so something changed in his plan. Either something one of the brothers said to him or something he realized himself made him change his plan and go back and retrieve the woman and the baby.
So, Trebor, as you're investigating and trying to find this family, what do you look, and you can't speak with, you've captured him. You've captured him. The gunman has been caught, but he's in such a physical state now they can't talk to him. So what are we doing now with this investigation? What avenues are they going down here?
It's one of the worst case scenarios where either you're only living witness, if you will, in this case, the suspect either dies or they're unable to talk to you. It's kind of like some of the movies that you watch where, you have someone that was kidnapped and who's been put in a box on the ground. They only have so much oxygen, right? And time is ticking away. How do you find them? Unfortunately, in our cases, statistically speaking, this does not look good for the family. I would be very concerned if I was one of the investigators at this time that, are we going to find them alive? Bearing the suspect being able to come around and talk and that he's willing to talk, they're going to have to go this alone. They're going to have to use just what they're doing now, this surveillance footage and any other footage that they can find of this vehicle, throughout the city. One of the good things they have working for them is, as Bobby mentioned, he didn't go too far. He had to turn around and come back quickly. You see in the photo there, he doesn't even take the time to put his hoodie back on. Hopefully he made some other mistakes, but hopefully that vehicle was picked up other places. I don't think that, I think in reading what the family's saying, this family didn't have any enemies. The husband didn't have any enemies. So normally we would start there. Sometimes kidnappings are very personal. As we've already mentioned, most of the time it's going to be somebody that knows of these individuals or possibly, related. There's some reason there, but nobody even asked for money, which is the other thing. When it's a complete stranger, there's a motive behind it. Somebody's trying to get rich quick. But this is really a puzzling one, and I just hope and pray that they're able to find those clues soon.
Absolutely puzzling. All right, Bobby Chacon, Trebor Randall staying with us for the hour. When we come back, I want to talk about the truck that was found torched, which really began the investigation in all of this. Plus, coming up this next hour.
In Los Angeles, California, Angelina Jolie making shocking allegations of verbal and physical abuse by her ex, Brad Pitt, on a private plane. The alleged victims, Angelina and their children. She says the FBI investigated and said there was enough evidence for probable cause. So why wasn't Brad Pitt arrested? We have the details of these allegations, which Pitt denies. She exited. One of their children asked, "Are you okay, Mommy?" Pitt yelled back, "No, Mommy's not okay."
It was a holiday parade that quickly turned tragic.
Evil has arrived and it's shown what it can do.
Darrell Brooks is accused of killing 6 people when he drove his vehicle through a crowd of spectators.
In a surprising move, Brooks waived his right to an attorney and instead will be representing himself.
Our cameras will be inside the courtroom as a community searches for justice.
The Deadly Parade Crash Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings 9/8 Central. Only on Court TV.
Right now, the big question and the first question is asked, where's the family? And that's where we're going. So I shared with the family Obviously, we have to worry about court and everything else. I'm not worried about court right now. We'll deal with court later. I'm worried about getting that family back. And that's how we're focused on this. 100% of our energy is trying to get our family back.
That's the sheriff in Merced County, California, looking for that family of 4, mom, dad, 8-month-old baby, and the baby's uncle. The suspect is in custody. He, because of his physical condition, cannot speak. But one of the questions is, okay, why did he abduct this family? Let's take another listen to the sheriff.
We don't have a motive. I can tell you that our suspect has a prior history of robbery, and he was actually convicted of it in 2005. And once he was sentenced, he was paroled in 2015. And since the parole, we have not had any major contact with this person at all. But we kind of figured that that's what the motive is right now until we prove otherwise. It's almost always what you can smart is a financial.
Okay, I'm going to try to figure out why this is a robbery. And let me bring back in Bobby Chacon, retired FBI special agent, Trebor Rander, former special agent in charge, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Bobby, let me roll through these 3 questions that I think are all sort of connected. Did this look like some sort of a crime of opportunity? You know, he's walking down the street. Maybe he's homeless. I don't know, but he's walking down the street and says, oh, let me rob this place over here. But if it's a robbery, why do you abduct the people? And why do you put them into the car? And then why do you drive away and then come back and drive away and then torch the car? To me, that doesn't make sense. If you're going to rob them, you just rob them right there, right?
Well, unless you want to get the money that's in their bank. So if they don't have a lot, this is a Monday morning. Most businesses go to the bank on Friday afternoons with their proceeds. This is a Monday morning. If he wanted to get at the money that they have in the bank and use their ATM, as he did actually Tuesday morning, I believe, he's seen, or someone looks very much like him, is seen, I think, using that an ATM. And so, you know, that could be one thing. I understand they only opened this business a week ago.
Right.
So it may be that he was transient in the area. He knew, you know, those people that live on the street in those areas know every business. They know everybody that comes and goes, and when they come and go, if they live on the street in that area, they may have seen this business open, you know, a couple of weeks, however long it's been open. They may have gotten their routine down and maybe forced them into, you know, with that gun, maybe with the intent of, you know, going to their ATM and trying to. That's a very awkward way of doing things. It's not like a professional kidnapper would do, because it's very hard to get a large amount of money from an ATM. We all know they have daily limits and things like that. So it's really a bizarre way of doing things. But this looks like a bizarre individual. He has a history of using a weapon, false imprisonment, and armed robbery, which seems very similar to this crime. Not exactly, but similar to the crime at hand. And you know, and surprising enough, the taller sheriff in the background, who takes the podium later in the press conference, is the original investigating detective on his case, you know, 15 or 17 years ago. And so I would be at that house where he was found, where he tried to take his own life, talking to his family, who ultimately turned him in when he told them that he had something to do with this, talking to them, doing a timeline of where he was when they saw him Monday and Tuesday, right up until the point where he attempts to take his own life. Build a timeline of him as best you can through his friends, if he has any friends, or the family members that called the police to turn him in. So build a timeline of when they saw him, how he looked, did he mention anything else? That's the only thing you have to go on, is his family that ultimately called the police. So you think that they're cooperative.
Trebor, the truck was also torched. So he drives the truck, torches it, and then just walks away like he walked into the place. And where does he walk to? I guess that's the only way, unless there's someone else involved here.
Well, that's not uncommon that we see suspects attempt to cover up evidence by the forensic evidence that may be found when they burn the vehicles after, you know, various crimes. But most of the time, in my experience, when we found a burned vehicle, they're trying to cover up a homicide. They're trying to cover up a murder. The fact that he attempts to take his own life, you know, is a good indicator that he didn't intend to go back to prison for the rest of his life or worse, get the death penalty. So again, that leads me to believe that this is not going to turn out well.
That little piece of video where I don't know if it's the brother, if it's the father or the uncle, is right in front of him and then kind of jogs inside. And I don't know what that conversation was. And I just wish that dog was inside that building instead of tied up outside.